30 years, 3 decades of marriage, of shared history, of building a family together under the watchful eye of millions of viewers. And now Janelle Brown wants us to believe that everything was actually fine until just recently. Folks, if that revelation does not make you sit up straight and question absolutely everything you thought you knew about this family, then you have not been paying attention. Because what Janelle just admitted contradicts years of tension, frustration, and barely concealed resentment that played out on our television screens for over a decade. The Sister Wives universe has been rocked by Janelle's bombshell admission, and fans are scrambling to reconcile this new narrative with everything they witnessed. For years, viewers watched Janelle roll her eyes at Kody's decisions. They saw her frustration mount as the family dynamics shifted. They witnessed her growing independence and what appeared to be emotional distance from her husband. And now she is claiming things were good between them until recently. Let us be brutally honest here. Either Janelle is completely rewriting history, or the show manipulated us into seeing a marriage that was functioning just fine as something far more troubled. Sources close to the family are already weighing in, and their reactions range from disbelief to outright confusion. One insider put it bluntly, saying that Janelle has always been the master of keeping her true feelings hidden, and this admission proves she was playing a much longer game than anyone realized. Another source suggested that what Janelle considers a good marriage might look very different from what the rest of us would accept. And honestly, that tracks. After watching Kody's treatment of his wives over the years, the bar for acceptable behavior in that family seems to have been buried somewhere beneath the foundation of the Coyote Pass property they never built on. The implications of Janelle's statement are staggering when you really think about them. If things were genuinely good with Kody until recently, that means the narrative fans constructed about their troubled 30-year relationship was completely wrong. It means all those moments of tension, all those arguments about logistics and fairness, all those sighs and frustrated glances were either manufactured for television or were not nearly as significant as viewers believed. Let that sink in for a moment. We may have been watching a completely different marriage than the one that actually existed behind closed doors. What makes this even more fascinating is Janelle's reputation as the logical wife, the one who approached her plural marriage like a business arrangement and tolerated Kody's behavior far longer than seemed reasonable. Fans always assumed she stayed because she had emotionally checked out years ago and was simply coexisting. But if Janelle is telling the truth, she stayed because she was genuinely happy. She stayed because the marriage was working for her in ways that viewers simply could not see. And that raises an uncomfortable question that nobody seems ready to answer. But if things were truly good until recently, what exactly happened to destroy a 3-decade relationship in what appears to be record time? Janelle made this stunning admission during a recent interview that has sent shockwaves through the Sister Wives fandom. When pressed about the timeline of her marriage's deterioration, she did not hedge or deflect like we have seen her do so many times before. Instead, she looked directly into the camera and stated that her relationship with Kody was actually functioning well until circumstances changed dramatically. The specificity of her claim is what makes it so jarring. She did not say things were okay or manageable. She said they were good. That is a significant word choice from someone known for her careful, measured responses. The public perception of Janelle and Kody's marriage has been shaped by over a decade of reality television footage, and none of it painted a picture of marital bliss. Viewers watched Janelle navigate what appeared to be chronic neglect. They saw her spend holidays without her husband, make major life decisions alone, and essentially function as a single mother while technically married. The contrast between what we saw and what Janelle is now claiming could not be more stark. It is like watching someone describe a 5-star meal while you clearly witness them eating cold leftovers standing over the kitchen sink. What makes Janelle's position particularly interesting is her role within the family dynamic. She was always considered the practical one, the wife who did not need constant emotional validation from Kody. Sources who have observed the family over the years suggest that Janelle and Kody had a partnership that operated differently from his other marriages. One insider revealed that Janelle valued her independence within the marriage, and Kody respected that in ways he never did with Christine or Mary. Another source claimed that their relationship actually improved when they had less direct contact, which is either incredibly healthy or deeply concerning depending on your perspective. The admission also exposes secrets about what was really happening behind the closed doors of the Brown family compound. For years, fans assumed they were seeing authentic glimpses into the family's struggles, but Janelle's statement suggests the reality was far more complicated. If she and Kody were genuinely happy while cameras captured apparent discord, then either Janelle is an Academy Award-worthy actress or the show's producers were crafting narratives that did not reflect reality. Neither option is particularly flattering to anyone involved. Allow me to translate what this really means. The show we thought was documenting a family's journey may have been something else entirely. The irony is absolutely staggering when you consider how much analysis fans have invested in decoding Janelle's body language, parsing parsing her words for hidden resentment, and building theories about her unhappiness. Entire Reddit threads have been dedicated to dissecting moments that viewers believed revealed Janelle's true feelings about her marriage. And now she is essentially saying that all of that analysis was based on a flawed premise. We were looking for cracks in a foundation that apparently was not broken, at least not until something catastrophic shifted the ground beneath it. But when fans started comparing Janelle's recent statements to her previous interviews, the inconsistencies became impossible to ignore. The Sister Wives fandom has transformed into amateur investigators, and they are finding evidence that directly contradicts Janelle's claim that things were good until recently. Longtime viewers are pulling receipts from seasons past, and the compilation of complaints, frustrations, and disappointments Janelle expressed creates a pattern that is hard to reconcile with her new narrative. Either Janelle has a remarkably selective memory, or she is deliberately reshaping the story of her marriage for reasons only she truly understands. Consider the Kody past drama that consumed multiple seasons of the show. Janelle was visibly frustrated with Kody's handling of the property, the endless delays, and his inability to make decisions that would allow the family to finally build their homes. She made statements on camera about feeling stuck, about wanting to move forward, about the impossibility of planning a future when Kody could not commit to basic timelines. Fans watched her face fall again and again as promises were broken and plans evaporated. But according to her new timeline, all of that frustration was somehow compatible with a good marriage. The math is simply not mathing, as the kids say. Then there were the numerous interviews where Janelle discussed the challenges of plural marriage with a weariness that seemed bone deep. She talked about the emotional labor of sharing a husband, the logistics that ground her down, and the loneliness that came with Kody's uneven attention distribution. Sources who analyzed these appearances noted that Janelle often displayed classic signs of someone who had accepted disappointment as her baseline. One body language expert who examined Sister Wives footage suggested that Janelle showed consistent indicators of emotional exhaustion dating back years before the pandemic. Another observer pointed out that her statements about being content seemed carefully rehearsed rather than genuinely felt. What makes this even more puzzling is the question of whether Janelle is rewriting history or if the show systematically manipulated her storyline. Reality television is notorious for creative editing, for manufacturing drama where none exists, for piecing together footage to create narratives that serve entertainment rather than truth. It is entirely possible that producers emphasized moments of conflict while downplaying periods of genuine happiness. One insider from the production world explained that happy marriages make terrible television, and there is always pressure to find the tension even when couples are functioning well. If that is what happened to Janelle and Kody, then viewers were essentially watching a carefully constructed fiction. But here is where the timeline truly falls apart under scrutiny. Janelle made complaints about Kody that predate the pandemic by years. She expressed frustration about his priorities, his availability, and his decision-making long before COVID protocols became the flashpoint that everyone points to now. Either those complaints were manufactured for the show. Let that sink in for a moment. We are either dealing with a woman who was genuinely happy despite everything we witnessed, or someone who is now painting over a much more complicated picture. But the real inconsistency emerges when you examine what Kody himself was saying about their marriage during those supposedly good years. While Janelle is out here claiming that their marriage was functioning well, Kody Brown has been telling an entirely different story. And folks, these two versions of reality are so incompatible that they cannot both be true. Someone is either misremembering, misrepresenting, or flat out lying about what was happening in this marriage. And given what we know about both parties, the truth is probably messier than either version suggests. Kody has made numerous statements over the years about feeling rejected by Janelle. He has complained about her independence being a barrier to intimacy. He has suggested that she prioritized her children, her career, and her personal freedom over their relationship. In his telling, the marriage had problems that stretched back years, perhaps even decades. Sources close to Kody claim that he felt emotionally abandoned by Janelle long before the pandemic changed everything. One insider revealed that Kody would vent to those around him about Janelle's coldness, her unwillingness to make him feel like a priority, and her seeming disinterest in the romantic aspects of their marriage. The Kody Pass land disputes provide a perfect example of their competing narratives. Janelle saw her lot as a symbol of their future together, a place where she would finally have the home she had always wanted. Kody saw the entire property situation as evidence that Janelle cared more about land than about their relationship. He made comments suggesting that her focus on building her own space represented a desire to be separate from him rather than together. According to sources who witnessed their disagreements, Kody felt that Janelle was using the property as an excuse to create distance. Allow me to translate that. Kody interpreted Janelle's desire for a permanent home as rejection, while Janelle saw it as investment in their shared future. The question of who is telling the truth becomes even more complicated when you consider how differently two people can experience the same relationship. Psychologists who have analyzed the Brown family dynamics point out that Kody and Janelle may both be sharing their genuine perceptions without either one lying. One expert explained that in plural marriages particularly, spouses often develop parallel realities where the same events hold completely different meanings. What Janelle experienced as a comfortable independence, Kody may have genuinely experienced as emotional neglect. Neither perception is necessarily wrong, but they cannot both be the complete picture. Insiders suggest there is actually a third version of events that neither Janelle nor Kody has shared publicly. Sources close to the family claim that the reality of their marriage was far more complicated than either spouse is willing to admit on camera. One person familiar with the situation revealed that there were issues going back decades that both Janelle and Kody have agreed to keep private. Another source suggested that the pandemic did not create their problems, but simply made it impossible to continue ignoring them. If that is true, then Janelle's claim that things were good until recently is technically accurate, while also being deeply misleading, but you absolutely cannot discuss when things went wrong without addressing the elephant in the room, and her name is Robyn. The Robyn factor hangs over every discussion of the Brown family marriages like a storm cloud that refuses to dissipate. And according to Janelle's new timeline, Robyn's arrival in 2010 did not actually damage her relationship with Kody. If Janelle is telling the truth, she spent over a decade watching her husband fall increasingly under Robyn's influence while her own marriage supposedly remained good. Either Janelle is a saint with patience that defies human nature, or she is being deliberately generous in her characterization of those years. Fans have obsessively documented changes in Janelle's demeanor following Robyn's entry into the family. They have analyzed her body language at family events, her positioning in group photos, and her word choices when discussing family dynamics. The consensus among longtime viewers is that something shifted after the new wife arrived. One observer who has tracked Janelle's appearances noted that her energy visibly changed around season 4. She became more guarded, more careful with her words, and less willing to engage in the playful moments that characterized earlier seasons. Another fan pointed out that Janelle stopped making spontaneous positive comments about Kody almost entirely after Robyn became established. The question of whether Janelle is protecting Robyn or genuinely did not blame her until recently is one that divides the fandom completely. Some viewers believe that Janelle recognized from the beginning that Robyn was manipulating her way into becoming the primary wife and simply chose not to fight it. Others suggest that Janelle's practical nature allowed her to accept the new family structure without the emotional turmoil that Christine experienced. Sources who have interacted with both women report conflicting accounts. One insider claimed that Janelle and Robyn genuinely got along for years, and that the current tension is relatively new. Another source insisted that Janelle was always aware of Robyn's favoritism, but chose to ignore it for the sake of family peace. What makes this particularly fascinating is how it reframes Janelle's eventual departure. If she spent over a decade accepting Robyn's growing influence without complaint, what finally changed? According to insiders, the pandemic became the line that could not be uncrossed, not because of Robyn herself, but because of how starkly it revealed Kody's priorities. One person close to the family explained that Janelle could rationalize a lot of things, but watching Kody choose Robyn's household over spending any time with her sons was a bridge too far. Let that sink in for a moment. A woman who apparently accepted 13 years of her husband favoring another wife finally hit her limit when her children were affected. The irony is absolutely brutal when you think about it. Janelle may have been telling herself for over a decade that things were fine, that the inequality was manageable, that her marriage was good enough, and maybe in some ways it was. Maybe she had genuinely found peace with the situation, but all that acceptance crumbled the moment she watched her husband treat her children as lesser than Robyn's. All those years of being practical and understanding evaporated when the disrespect touched the people she loved most. But something happened during the pandemic that Janelle has never fully explained, and the details are more explosive than anyone realized. The COVID-19 pandemic did not just change the Brown family's living arrangements, it exposed fault lines that had apparently been there all along, even in a marriage Janelle now claims was good. The protocols that Kody implemented essentially forced every wife to choose between access to their husband and living their lives freely. And when Janelle chose freedom for herself and her sons, the marriage that had supposedly been working just fine completely collapsed. That timeline does not scream good marriage to anyone paying attention. Kody's household rules during the pandemic became legendary among Sister Wives viewers for their apparent inconsistency. While Robyn's household operated under strict quarantine protocols that Kody enforced with absolute rigidity, community, the other wives were expected to follow equally stringent rules without receiving any of the benefits, namely time with their shared husband. Janelle's adult sons, Garrison and Gabriel, were particularly resistant to what they saw as arbitrary restrictions. Sources claim that the boys viewed Kody's rules as an excuse to abandon them rather than a genuine health concern. One insider revealed that Garrison told family members that Kody had been looking for reasons to stay away, and COVID gave him the perfect cover. The conflict between Kody and Janelle's sons during this period forced her into an impossible position. She could either enforce rules that would alienate her children from their home, or stand with her sons and accept that her husband would essentially disappear from her life. According to those familiar with the situation, Janelle tried initially to find middle ground. She implemented some protocols, attempted to negotiate with Kody, and hoped that flexibility would preserve both relationships. But Kody, sources say, was unwilling to compromise. One person close to the family stated bluntly that Kody gave Janelle an ultimatum disguised as health concerns, and she refused to play along. What viewers did not see was how deeply the disrespect toward her sons affected Janelle's perception of her entire marriage. Insiders reveal that Janelle began reevaluating years of memories through a new lens once she watched Kody dismiss her children so callously. One source explained that Janelle started connecting dots she had previously refused to see. She realized that the good marriage she thought she had was built on her willingness to not ask for too much, to not demand equal treatment, to not make waves, and once she saw how Kody treated her sons, she could not unsee it. The devastating truth that Janelle may finally be acknowledging is that her marriage was only good because she accepted crumbs. It was good because she kept her expectations so low that they were impossible not to meet. It was good because she convinced herself that independence was a feature rather than a symptom of neglect. Let that sink in for a moment. Janelle's definition of a working marriage may have been fundamentally different from what most people would consider acceptable, but what viewers did not see was the ultimatum Janelle allegedly gave Kody behind closed doors, and his response revealed everything about where his priorities truly lie. Sources close to the Brown family claim that Janelle did not simply drift away from Kody during the pandemic. According to insiders, she gave him a clear choice and demanded changes that would demonstrate she and her children actually mattered to him. The details of this alleged ultimatum vary depending on who is telling the story, but the outcome is undisputed. Whatever Janelle asked for, Kody either could not or would not provide it. And that refusal ended a 30-year marriage more effectively than any other single action. The specifics of what Janelle reportedly demanded are telling. According to one source, she wanted Kody to spend meaningful time with their household, not just occasional check-ins that satisfied the bare minimum of marital obligation. Another insider claimed that Janelle asked for equal treatment, meaning whatever protocols existed for Robyn's household should apply consistently across all the wives, or no one should have to follow them. A third source suggested that Janelle's primary concern was how Kody interacted with their sons, and she demanded he repair those relationships before expecting anything from her. Kody's alleged response to these demands ranges from dismissive to outright hostile, depending on which insider you believe. One person familiar with the situation claimed that Kody told Janelle she did not understand the complexity of his position, a phrase that apparently became a recurring dismissal whenever any wife raised concerns. Another source revealed that Kody suggested Janelle was being manipulated by her sons into turning against him, shifting blame onto the children rather than examining his own behavior. Let us be brutally honest here. If a man responds to his wife's request for basic consideration by accusing her children of manipulation, that tells you everything you need to know about where that marriage was actually headed. What makes Janelle's recent admission about things being good so fascinating is how it functions as subtle shade toward Kody. Think about it. If she says everything was fine until recently, and we know that recently includes his pandemic behavior, then she is essentially saying that Kody destroyed a functional marriage through his own choices. She is not taking blame, she is not accepting responsibility for the breakdown. She is quietly but clearly pointing the finger at her husband without having to make explicit accusations. One observer who has studied Janelle's communication style noted that she has always been skilled at saying things without saying them directly. This might be her most effective use of that talent yet. Insiders suggest that the ultimatum moment crystallized something for Janelle that had been forming for years. She finally saw clearly that she would always come second at best and probably lower than that on Kody's priority list. One source revealed that Janelle told friends she had been making excuses for Kody their entire marriage, and she was done. Another insider claimed that Janelle expressed relief after the ultimatum failed because it freed her from continuing to hope things would improve, but Christine's departure may have played a bigger role in Janelle's awakening than anyone initially realized. Watching Christine Brown walk away from Kody changed something fundamental in Janelle. According to sources close to both women, Janelle had been telling herself for years that leaving was not really an option, that the practical complications were too overwhelming, that the upheaval would not be worth whatever freedom she might gain. And then Christine, supposedly the neediest and most emotionally dependent of the wives, simply left. She packed her things, moved across the country, and started thriving almost immediately. For Janelle, that example was apparently transformative. The friendship between Christine and Janelle deepened significantly as their marriages simultaneously crumbled. Sources describe late-night conversations, shared frustrations, and a mutual support system that neither woman had expected to find. One insider revealed that Christine and Janelle started comparing notes on their experiences with Kody, and the patterns they discovered were damning. Both women realized they had been receiving the same dismissive treatment for years. Both had been told their feelings were unreasonable. Both had been made to feel like the problems in their marriages were somehow their fault. The solidarity they found in those conversations was powerful. Christine showed Janelle what freedom could look like in ways that abstract imagination never could. Here was a woman who had spent decades defining herself through her marriage and her religion, and she was not just surviving outside of it, she was flourishing. Sources close to Janelle say she watched Christine's post-divorce transformation with something approaching awe. One friend revealed that Janelle commented on how much lighter Christine seemed, how much happier she appeared, how much more herself she had become. The contrast to Janelle's own situation, still technically married but essentially abandoned, was apparently stark enough to force real reflection. What makes this dynamic particularly interesting is how it challenges the show's established hierarchy among the wives. Janelle was always positioned as the practical one, the logical one, the wife who understood how things worked and did not let emotions cloud her judgment. Christine was portrayed as the emotional one, the one who needed constant reassurance, the one whose feelings were sometimes treated as excessive. And yet it was emotional, Christine who had the clarity and courage to leave first. One observer noted that Janelle probably never expected Christine to be the one showing her the way out. Janelle has made public statements about being inspired by Christine's bravery, but sources suggest the private admiration runs even deeper. According to those who have spoken with both women, Janelle credits Christine with giving her permission to want more for herself. Let that sink in for a moment. After 30 years of marriage, Janelle needed to watch someone else leave before she could believe it was possible for her. But Janelle's definition of spiritual divorce has left fans more confused than ever about what exactly happened and where things actually stand. When Janelle announced her separation from Kody, she used a phrase that immediately sparked intense speculation among viewers. Spiritual divorce, not legal divorce, not a clean break, spiritual divorce. The terminology suggests something incomplete, something still connected, something that leaves doors open that a traditional divorce would close. And fans have been trying to decode exactly what Janelle means ever since. The religious implications of the term are significant for anyone who understands the background of the Brown family's faith. Plural marriage in their tradition is not just a legal arrangement, it is a spiritual covenant that supposedly binds families together for eternity. A spiritual divorce, then, would dissolve that eternal bond while potentially leaving other aspects of the relationship intact. Sources familiar with the family's belief system explain that Janelle may be communicating something very specific to people who share their religious background while confusing everyone else entirely. What makes Janelle's terminology choice even more puzzling is the inconsistency in how she describes her current status with Kody. In some interviews, she speaks about him with clear finality, as though the relationship is completely over. In others, she maintains a careful ambiguity that suggests something remains unresolved. One insider who has observed these patterns suggests that Janelle herself may not be entirely clear on what she wants. Another source claimed that Janelle is keeping her options deliberately vague because she has not fully processed the end of her 30-year relationship. Fan theories about Janelle leaving the door open for reconciliation have proliferated across social media. Some viewers believe she is using spiritual divorce as a way to maintain hope that Kody will eventually come to his senses. Others suggest the terminology protects her from having to admit that her marriage truly failed. A more cynical interpretation holds that Janelle is keeping things ambiguous because it serves the ongoing television narrative better than a clean break would. Allow me to translate that theory. Janelle may be making choices based partly on what will keep her relevant to the show that has provided her income for over a decade. The ambiguity extends to practical matters as well. Sources report confusion about whether Janelle and Kody have any ongoing contact, whether they communicate about their shared children and grandchildren, and whether any formal separation papers have been filed. One person familiar with the situation revealed that even close close family members are not entirely sure where things stand. Let that sink in for a moment. After everything that has happened publicly, the actual status of their relationship remains unclear, even to those closest to them, but Janelle's recent actions suggest she has already moved on in ways she has not publicly admitted, and the evidence is becoming impossible to ignore. The Sister Wives universe continues to reel from Janelle's bombshell admission, and the questions it raises may never be fully answered. After 30 years of marriage, countless hours of television footage, and what appeared to be growing resentment captured on camera, Janelle wants us to believe that things were actually good with Kody until recently. And honestly, whether that is true or a careful revision of history matters less than what it reveals about the Brown family's ongoing narrative. The secrets about those supposedly good years may surface in upcoming seasons of the show, assuming the family continues participating. Producers undoubtedly recognize the gold mine in Janelle's contradictory statements and will likely press her for clarification on camera. Sources familiar with production plans suggest that the show intends to explore the different versions of events each family member holds. One insider revealed that upcoming episodes will feature direct confrontations about who is telling the truth and whose memory can be trusted. Another source claimed that Kody himself has demanded the opportunity to respond to what he sees as Janelle rewriting their shared history. Whether Janelle will ever reveal the complete truth about her marriage remains genuinely uncertain. She has demonstrated remarkable skill at sharing just enough to maintain interest while protecting information she considers private. Sources who know her well suggest that Janelle has compartmentalized her marriage into chapters, some of which she will never discuss publicly. One friend revealed that Janelle believes certain details would serve no purpose except to cause pain, and she has no interest in being vindictive even now. Another insider suggested that the full story involves aspects of the family's religious practices that none of them want to expose to public scrutiny. What seems increasingly clear is that the Brown family relationships were always more complicated than any television show could capture. Janelle's admission that things were good until recently might be absolutely true from her perspective, while contradicting what viewers observed and what other family members experienced. The reality of a 30-year plural marriage with 4 wives, 18 children, and countless interconnected relationships probably cannot be summarized by any single narrative. And that messiness, that inability to define exactly what happened and who bears responsibility, may be the most honest representation of their situation. The legacy of Janelle and Kody's marriage will ultimately be written by more than just their conflicting accounts. Their children's perspectives, the show's documented moments, and the ongoing revelations from family insiders will all contribute to the eventual understanding of what that relationship actually was. For now, fans are left with contradictions, questions, and the nagging sense that the truth lies somewhere between what anyone is willing to say publicly. Do you believe Janelle when she says things were good with Kody until recently, or is she rewriting history to protect herself, protect others, or serve some purpose we cannot yet identify? Drop your theories in the comments below, because this conversation is far from over, and the secrets still hiding in the Brown family may be more explosive than anything we have learned so far.